Mic check 1 2, testing 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
This public hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication will now come to order. Notice the public hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets via electronic format on Tuesday, April 25th, 2017, with a second notice provided on Monday, May the 1st, 2017. Notice of the hearing was also made on the Legislature's website. We have one bill on this afternoon's agenda. It's a bill 80-34, which I introduced relative to designating the University of Guam as the lead agency for climate change and creating the funding for the Island Sustainability Outreach and Action Program. This bill was introduced not because really we have been the cause of climate change, but it was introduced in response to President Trump deciding to dismantle and ignore a lot of the environmental protection and sustainability initiatives that the previous administration had implemented. And though we did not do much to cause climate change, we represent the front line of the global fight against its consequences. According to the 2011 report authored by the Brookings Institute and London School of Economics, between 665,000 and 1.7 million people in the Pacific alone could be displaced or forced to migrate by 2050 due to the effects of climate change. This is important to Guam because where do you think they will come when that happens? We've already been the landing spot for a number of climate change refugees from the outer islands, and in the future it's only going to increase. And so this bill also tries to address what was recommended by the 2015 Department of Interior stakeholder meeting for, quote, climate-related professional and technical positions in government agencies. This bill establishes an Island Sustainability Outreach Program under the University of Guam, and we did that because for the last 8 years the university has been conducting and has been the leader in sustainability conference and outreach, and I'd like to just have it go through them and to have educational programs throughout Guam villages. Senator Tom Abbott will be hearing a companion bill that I introduced, which would establish a commission to provide the legislature with professional and technical advice on how to address sustainability issues. I have tried in the past to introduce legislation on sustainability and gotten criticized because my law degree doesn't necessarily provide me with the expertise in this area, and though I have used ad hoc advisors from the university and from various places, I thought that it would be important that we have a commission that is going to be looking at this and addressing this issue and providing other members of the legislature with ideas on legislation that can and should be introduced. And so with that, I want to thank everybody that has shown up today to testify. I don't imagine Mr. Cruz from the House is testifying. Are you testifying? Just signed it. Angel Sablon from the Mayor's Council of Guam. Jeremy Damian signed up first, why don't you go ahead? Please.
Half a day, Mr. Speaker, Senator Adams, Senator Lee. I'm here when it's in half a day. I'm Angel Sablan, Executive Director of the Mayor's Council of Guam, and I'm here today to testify in favor of the passage of Bill 80-34. We all know too well that climate change is real. Some of us believe it, some of us do not. But the longer we doubt reality and do nothing equals to the increase that something will happen. In fact, it is already happening. Go to Agate and witness the concrete power poles that are now in the waters next to the Agate Marina. Go to Humatak and witness the Humatak Cemetery and the real estate that is already gone somewhere else. Go right here in East Hagatnya and ask yourselves, where has all the sand gone next to the rock wall where the pavilions are at? Go around our island and ask yourselves, is something really different about our island? The deniers would say no. The mayors would say yes. The mayors side with the scientists and all the studies that have been done and continue to be done to prove that climate change is real, not only on our island paradise, but in our world. We need to act now. For this reason, the Mayor's Council of Guam looks forward to partnering and working with the University of Guam and to move forward with bringing a greater awareness to our constituents and offering solutions for action and options for mitigation on an issue that is either heating us up or eating us up. Our mayors are ready to work. Our mayors are ready to support. Our mayors are ready to engage. Our mayors are ready. Please expeditiously report this bill out of committee, put it on the early session agenda for deliberation, pass it, and send it on to the governor. It is time for action. That is my written testimony. On my way over here, Mayor Hoffman was in our office because we had a Mayor's Council meeting this morning. And of course, Mayor Hoffman is a member of GVB, Guam Visitors Bureau, and he asked me that although he supports the intent of this bill, he would like to ask this legislature if they could find another source of funding besides the tourist attraction fund. We do get money from the tourist attraction fund for the Mayor's Council of Guam, so he's just afraid that sooner or later down the road, some of that money that goes to the Mayor's Council of Guam from the TIF might be taken away for projects like this. So that is a concern I told him that I would bring up. That's my testimony today. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Mr. Munoz is going to be testifying to that. Antonio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Senator Adams, Senator Lee. I'm giving a testimony on behalf of John Nathan tonight, the President and CEO of the Guam Visitors Bureau. Today, Speaker Cruz and members of the 34th Guam Legislature, thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony for Bill Number 80-34, an act to add a Section 1613.6 to Chapter 16, Title 17, all of the Guam Code Annotated, relative to designating the University of Guam as lead agency for climate change and creating and funding the Island Sustainability Outreach and Action Program. Respecting and protecting our natural environment is one of the most important cultural values we have as a people. Our land gave our ancestors a home and resources to survive for thousands of years. Today, climate change has a real impact to that very environment. GVB supports efforts to coordinate long-term planning on how to mitigate the adverse impacts of climate change in our region. It is an important step to protecting Guam's natural resources and further educate the community in addressing this issue. For this reason, GVB supports the intent of Bill 80-34. However, climate change affects everyone, and while GVB agrees with the intent of the bill, we do not support or agree with the use of the Tourist Attraction Fund for this program, as we believe it falls outside of the scope set by 11 GCA Section 30-107 for the TAF. Moreover, in its current form, the bill identifies TAF revenues from fiscal year 2018 as a funding source, but does not make it available until October 1, 2017. GVB believes that although the revenues will not be used until the start of FY 2018, the bill still advances an appropriation in lieu of the consistent practice of working through the government budget process. As a public, non-stock, and non-profit membership corporation, GVB's mission is twofold: to represent the island's tourism industry and to promote and develop Guam as a safe and satisfying destination for our visitors while deriving maximum benefits for the people of Guam. Currently, our island's tourism industry is at a crossroads. We have major challenges in Japan and are looking for additional resources to stem the decreases we have experienced over the last several years. The Korean market is experiencing unprecedented growth, but additional funding is still needed to support and maintain that growth. For the last 3 years, GVB has been given a rollover budget, and we did the best with what we had to increase economic activity on Guam. However, additional investments into attracting new air service and improving our island's infrastructure are needed to ensure a sustainable and thriving tourism industry. We appreciate the support you have given to GVB and to the tourism industry, and we thank you for allowing us to testify on Bill 80-34. Sinceramente, John Nathan Benay.
Today, Speaker Cruz, Vice Speaker Chilahi, Senator Adida, and Senator Lee. My name is Austin Shelton. I'm an assistant professor in the University of Guam Sea Grant Program and an associate director of the Center for Island Sustainability. My background is in marine biology and environmental science. At UOG, I work to reduce Guam's environmental stressors and build island resilience against the impacts of climate change. This afternoon, I am pleased to testify in support of Bill 80-34, introduced by Speaker Cruz, which would establish the Island Sustainability Outreach and Action Program. Last month, the University of Guam hosted its 8th Regional Island Sustainability Conference. We had over 300 participants discussing topics on responsible development, utilities, natural resources, climate change, and tourism. The theme was cultivating communities for sustainable action. The takeaway from the conference was that there is an urgency to act on environmental and sustainability issues, and we need to inspire our community to take action. Bill 80-34 is a great start to this. It takes action against climate change at the community level. Climate change is a clear and present danger here in the Pacific. We experience its impacts in 3 main ways: increasing frequency and intensity of storms, rising sea level, warming of sea surface temperatures. These impacts make our islands vulnerable to storm surges, coastal erosion, saltwater inundation of food crops, and coral bleaching, which damages essential fish habitat. And being a high island in the Pacific, as well as a hub for economic activity, healthcare, and education, with comparatively more resources than neighboring islands, Guam is a refuge for thousands of climate change migrants. But as a small island sitting in a remote region, what can we do to address climate change? What science tells us is that we can build resilience against climate change impacts by reducing local environmental stressors. That means if we take steps to reduce local stressors, such as pollution and sedimentation on coral reefs, the natural ecosystem functions can return and help our island bounce back as we experience global climate change impacts. Therefore, the Island Sustainability and Outreach and Action Program is an excellent start to the solution, as it will help educate, prepare, and lead the people of Guam to understand the massive problems associated with climate change and the urgency to act by adopting and implementing sustainable practices. The University of Guam Sea Grant Program sits in cooperative extension and outreach under the College of Natural and Applied Sciences. It is our job and extension to bring science to the people in a format that is both useful and usable. Since last February, our team has reached over 5,000 community members through educational outreach events in classrooms and outdoor activities. The Center for Island Sustainability has reached thousands of more through its annual conference and served as a catalyst for discussion on many regional issues since its establishment in 2009. The University of Guam is well suited to take on this project and ensure its success. The Island Sustainability Outreach and Action Program would allow us to increase our presence at the village level. We would work with the Mayor's Council to first identify the municipalities where we will work, and then partner with mayors to assess needs and priorities of the residents. We would have extension assistants serve as community organizers and guide residents to carry out activities, for example, such as the establishment of community gardens, stabilizing shorelines in coastal villages with natural vegetation to prevent coastal erosion, educating residents on how to properly dispose of waste, and organizing community awareness campaigns to curb illegal dumping. Again, I would like to express my support for Bill 80-34 introduced by Speaker Cruz. It is an excellent start to the action we need to take to sustain our land, our ocean, and our culture in the face of mounting environmental challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shelton. I understand, Mayor, you wish to testify. Please. Go ahead. Mr. Senator, Mayor Fadji, you want to testify also? Mr. Fadji? No, just Ernest. Turn your mic on.
Thank you, Judge. I know you're a senator now, but in my heart and mind, you're always the judge that I knew at Superior Court. Thank you, Senator Cruz, Speaker, Senator Telai, Senator Adet, Senator Lee. I'm interested in this because I'm one of the coastal. Mauricio is known as a fishing community. And what happens in the coastal, which is attributed to man-made matters that affect the water quality, the salt content, and everything, allows crabs to flourish. Otherwise, they won't be able to have shells around them to protect them from anything else that may make them prey. But I just got back from Hawaii, and I would be a derelict of my responsibility as part of the marine space show as well as climate change that I've been attending. So I just wanted to commend you, Judge, Speaker Cruz, for this is a start so that we recognize that what we do in the coastal area, which is attributed to improvements to people's homes or any development, ultimately will go out to the ocean, because they eventually all the rivers and streams lead out to the oceans, and unless we have a way to mitigate or minimize the amount of erosion and siltation that go out to smother the corals and all the organisms out there, that it will also affect the water content as far as the salination, and that allows the fish to either come in or go out far from the coast. And it promotes fisheries, and I know that tourists come here to fish as well, but more so for the local people, so that they're not struggling to put food on the table. So what we do on the coast, like I said, ultimately affect the marine resources we have. That I want to protect it, because I used to be a former fisherman. Now I only fish in the morning hours when people are asleep. But I want to know that the coral reefs are being protected as well. And this is a start. They can have leads. And I understand there's a task force for the reef, coral reef protection. And if we can all combine our efforts and the resources and the knowledge, I think we can minimize the effects, the adverse effects that runoffs and everything else that is attributed to developments and man-made obstructions and destructions to our marine resources. Thank you very much, and I'm here in support of this bill. Speaker, it's a start, and I hope that we can collaboratively, all agencies that have concern for our ocean resources, come together to find ways to minimize and maximize our protection of our ocean resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you very much for bringing back some of that information that you learned at the Hawaii conference. I think that's the way that we should all travel, is make sure that we share the information that we've all had the benefit of learning. I think it goes without saying that I'm disappointed, if not dismayed, by the testimony that's been submitted by GVB. I understand your desire to have more money for promotions to bring more tourists, but if Tumon Bay gets any more bleached out, or we lose more shoreline, they'll have nothing to bring them to. So you can take it back to them, but I think that the testimony they provided was very short-sighted. And I'm hoping that before the 10 days is over, that I will get a revised statement from GVB. I'm too upset to even address it further, but I want to thank the mayors and Angel for pointing out the areas that we're losing along the shores, and Dr. Shelton, thank you and the university for all that you guys have been doing over the last, many years. Even before the Sustainability Conference started, and even before you went off to school, you were addressing these issues. And so if you can get the rest of the young people on this island to do their little contribution, all together we'll be able to address what Mayor Chargoff wants to protect. The shores of the island, not only for the fishermen along the shores, but for all the rest of the islanders and for the people and for the tourists also. So thank you very much. I have no other questions. I just thank you very much for your testimony and your support.
I just wanted to echo the sentiments of the speaker in terms of his disappointment of the, everybody supports the intent of the bill, but certainly don't want to invest in it. And I guess my disappointment comes in view of the fact that if we take a look, we spend so much money. I think the budget for promotions is something a little over $10 million to push the tourists to Guam, but we don't spend nearly as much to invest in the destination so that they keep coming back. And when we take a look at $350,000, which is about maybe 3% of that entire promotions budget, I just find that very, very disappointing. But I think this is an investment that we really need to take a look at funding. And especially in light of the fact that when we take a look at the GVB budget, there are so many items in there that it just baffles me why, that we're spending money for those things, for activities. I'm not even going to mention them, but there's about $1 million worth of allocations that are made for things that probably, I would say in my mind, are not as important as starting to really take a serious look at the effects of climate change. So I share the sentiment of the speaker that the investment from the Tourist Attraction Fund in this effort certainly is an investment in the tourist destination, so that they keep coming back to something that's nice. Thank you.
Thank you all for your testimony and for your work. I know all of you are equally concerned about the shores of Guam, our seashores, climate change. I don't think, at least we're not having that debate here. I don't hear it, that anyone's debating that that's an issue for Guam. We're not in denial, and we all need to address that. So I thank you all for your work in that regard. I have a few questions. I mean, this bill is, it says that University of Guam will be designated as the lead agency to conduct academic research and educational outreach activities. And I guess I'm confused. Why is this language necessary? I'm sure the University of Guam, as you've already testified, conducts academic research and educational outreach activities relative to climate change and its impacts on Guam. And if they're not doing that, then I would hope that in their regular course of business, that is one of their priorities. And so I want to know, what is the term lead agency? What are the real implications of being designated a lead agency? Or if the sponsor wants to answer, or does Mr. Shelton, does that have a implication? Because I know we have other areas of the government. We've got a climate change task force. We have a BSP, which is supposed to be in charge of the coastal, right? But when it comes to academic research and educational outreach activities, as we're all aware of the sustainability program up at UOG, and that's part of it. The Sea Grant program is supposed to be doing that. The Marine Lab. I'm sure there are many, many others that you can call climate change, maybe directed or centered types of research. So I guess, if there's a meaning to this term lead agency, it looks like it's a required designation for some purpose. I'm wondering. I have other questions.
Yeah, I didn't realize that we were going to be discussing it that way. But if you have questions of them, ask them questions.
I do. I mean,
Is that for me? Okay.
If anyone has the answer to that, yes. Is anyone aware?
I'm not able to speak for the University of Guam administration. My interpretation of just reading the legislation, that perhaps since the University of Guam has been the leader in climate change issues, environmental issues for so many years, and as you mentioned, that there's all these different programs and agencies doing this work, I'm sure the University of Guam would, at least for the Center for Island Sustainability and Sea Grant, we would be happy to serve as lead agency to work on coordinating all of these issues and programs. So if it's a designation that's being offered to us because of the leadership that we were showing, I'm sure that we'd be happy to take that on.
Well, it looks like there's some purpose that's connected with lead agency, the funding, and perhaps something else. So it's not that obvious from the bill. But it seems from the testimony that the island sustainability, I don't have it right in front of me, but the island sustainability, just one second. The Center for Island Sustainability, right, and the Guam Sea Grant Program are already conducting academic research and outreach activities relative to climate change, its impacts on Guam, correct? Is that correct?
Sure, we are leading work in that
Okay,
right now.
and so the funds in particular, it says it's authorized for use as a local matching requirement for the Sea Grant Program as a federal grants and aid. So what change does this bring to the Sea Grant Program? Or is this to fund something that's already being funded right now? And this is or is this a change, a different program that they're going to adopt under Sea Grant Program, or?
The university does not designate themselves as the lead agency. The university, under this bill, is designated as the lead agency in the same way that in previous legislation we used lead designation for the aquaculture program that is being done up at the university. It's a term of art that we use here that we can designate, and it was not meant as anything for them to be matching anything as much as to take the lead and hopefully expand the programs by getting the villagers involved. I know I've been enamored with Dr. Shelton's project in Pneumatic, and I wish that we would do it in other places and figure out how other villages can work these things. But I'd like to see programs with the young people throughout the island doing projects like that. But it wasn't something the university anointed itself. I anointed them, so we'll discuss it amongst ourselves on that.
Well, so Dr. Shelton, you're an associate professor, so you're not the head of the Sea Grant Program. I was wondering if you could testify as to what is the impact of this on the Sea Grant Program. Like, what is their current funding for what they currently are doing, their outreach and their educational research?
Sure, yes. I do. I'm an assistant professor in the Sea Grant Program and associate director of the Center for Island Sustainability. So I do report to our directors for both of these programs. But I can say that if this funding did come through and we were allowed to take on this program, what's really unique about having local funding for a project is that we can use that to match and grow our federal grants. So if we, for example, if we get so many thousands of dollars in every year in federal funding, we would be able to, I think when I was calculating these numbers, we would be eligible for somewhere around $1 million or about $750,000 additional dollars in federal funding. So this would provide a lot of leverage to grow our Sea Grant Program and island sustainability programs even further.
All right, and is there a particular proposal that the Sea Grant Program is working on?
Well, our next proposal to go in for our federal funding cycle wouldn't be due until later in the fall. If this was something that does get passed and we were able to add this into our programming, then we would be able to put in a lot more for a much larger federal request for next year. This would help us greatly in that effort.
Does the Sea Grant Program currently get matching funds from the government of Guam?
No. Yes, some, like some local funding for salaries, but there's never been any commitment other than basic administrative things and some faculty salary that's already at the University of Guam. But right now, out of the 33 programs across the nation, we're still one of the smallest and youngest Sea Grant programs. If we were able to get local match like many of the other states do, then we'd have the potential to grow a lot larger than we are now. I mean, it would put us in the standing, make us eligible for a lot more federal money.
Does the university provide from its budget funds for Sea Grant to use in that regard?
I'm sorry, to use
Does the university provide funds for the Sea Grant Program to use in that regard, like to use as matching?
Yes, there are some. For example, faculty salary and the use of Xerox machines and facilities, those all add up, but it can never take us really to the next level of a Sea Grant program without something like this, which would be a really great added benefit of this legislation.
All right. Are you aware if, when it comes to like climate change conferences, and I don't know, so I'm guessing now that the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, who is in charge of the coastal zone management, that they probably attend those conferences representing Guam, or maybe I think the governor has a task force, so I don't know if they also do that. Are you aware from your experience at these kind of conferences as to who's representing Guam in that regard?
No, I'm not too sure what specific conference. I mean, if it's a scientific conference, there's many of those around the world. I don't know if there's a specific one that government agencies are attending or not. But, yeah, that's one of the purposes of our Island Sustainability Conference, is to have those discussions here, since nobody's talking about it for our region.
Okay. All right. Does the Sea Grant program currently work with that climate change task force that was created by executive order?
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask our director about that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes?
Can I just ask a question? I just read this about the acknowledgement of the executive branch and the creation of the Guam Climate Task Force and the Climate Change Advisory Committee. And I'm hoping that, you know, if the university is the lead, that we work together, you know, the task force work together with the designation of the lead agency, so that we work collaboratively and identify all the issues so that we can resolve them all together, so that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. One example is when I attended the climate change as well as the coastal and marine spatial planning. The Department of Defense is tasked with protecting our national interests and our security. The Department of Interior is tasked with protecting our ocean resources in the United States. But when the Department of Defense throws a bomb into our oceans, one destroys, the other one protects. So I like to see that doesn't happen here on our island, that the task force work collaboratively with the lead agency and everybody that has a stake in protection of our resources and marine resources, that we all work together so that we all know what we're doing and that we all have goals and objectives that we can all reach in the protection of our ocean resources. I don't want to build a bickering and who wants to be this, who wants to be that. Let's work together to find the solutions to protect our ocean resources. I don't care how it's done, but we do it together. That's a better coordination than to be bickering amongst who's right, who's wrong. No, let's identify the problems and resolve them together. That's my take on this, and I hope that when this bill goes through, that the task force work together. I hope it's not a separate issue, but it's a combined effort to protect our island. Okay. Thank you very much.
And tomorrow, Senator Abbott will be conducting a hearing on a companion bill that I introduced, Bill 79, that will establish a committee within the legislature to provide us with information and advice. The executive branch has its advisory panel, and the commission that I'm trying to impanel legislatively is to work collaboratively with what the governor is doing and provide us with information. We're not sitting on the governor's panels, and so, but we need information on what kind of legislation we ought to be doing, and so if we can put together the subject matter experts to provide us with the information that's also being provided to the executive, we might be able to, we would be able to work better to try to make sure that we are all working together. So that's the companion bill that was introduced, 79, that'll be heard tomorrow morning in Senator Abbot's committee.
I just hope there's no competing interests in who's going to get the credit for what is being done or what's to be done. So I just want to make sure that the government as a whole identifies the issues that we confront us as far as climate change is concerned and work together as part of the government to preserve and protect our ocean resources as the intention of the bills as well as the governor's task force. Thank you very much.
And the reason for Bill 79, again, and I'll reiterate it tomorrow morning, is that over the last 10 years I have introduced various pieces of legislation as it relates to sustainability and to climate change, and have been criticized as one never having fished a day in my life, so what would I know about fishing and the importance of the whole protecting the food chain up the line and trying to address coral and being told again I knew nothing about that. I was hoping that with a committee that we would impanel that would advise the senators that because of the subject matter experts that we would be utilizing, that whoever is going to be in the next legislature and even in this one that wants to take some of the ideas that the committee comes out with, that they will at least have some standing about what they're providing and not suffer the criticism that I've had to suffer over the last 10 years of what do you know about that area? You have a law degree, not a degree in biology or in ocean, in any of the ocean sciences. So I'm just trying to provide this legislature with some advice and expert advice to support our legislation. And this bill is to try to make sure that someone takes it out to the community and not just the legislature trying to get it out to the community.
Yes. Is there, I want to commend you, Dr. Shelton. I know that since you were in Hawaii, you have done a very good job of outreach to the community here on Guam, even from a distance, and of course when you come back and forth. And I know that the programs that you have established are kind of maybe well known, better known than some of the other ones, and I know that there's efforts to expand these to other places, and so I commend you for that. And I'm wondering, this is a side question to the mayor, but at the conference, well, never mind, I'll talk about that later, but is there anything that this bill is a little bit unusual in that it appropriates, or it's a bill today to say what will be appropriated in FY18. So if that's my understanding, if I'm understanding this correctly.
I don't think any of them are going to be able to answer your question. We can
well, I was
deal with
just
that
wondering
offline.
if there's something in the program that requires that in advance type of, I guess.
They did not write that legislation. If you have any questions, you can ask me offline.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you so much, Dr. Shelton, Mr. Sablan, Mayor Chargaloff, and Mr. Munya for joining us and for your testimony. The legislature in the past has been criticized for raiding the Tourist Attraction Fund, and we know that by law the TAF can only be used for certain things. Anything we fund using the TAF must be effective towards advancing our visitor industry. So I know Mr. Munya gave his testimony, but I wanted to ask the three of you on the panel, do you feel that this will be an effective use of tourist attraction funds?
Let me just say that this use is probably more effective, an effective use than some of the uses we've had for the Tourist Attraction Fund in the past.
I'm a scientist, so I'm not really qualified to say how budgets should be made. I think anything that funds our protection of natural resources is generally a great thing. So I'm just excited for however you see fit as legislators to make this work, and I'd be happy to participate from the University of Guam.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton. And I also just wanted to amplify your message before about if we're able to find funding for this program through the TAF or other means, that this would be a really good return on investment, because as you said, it could give us the opportunity to go for additional federal grant funding to support your program and all the great work that you're doing. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
In addition, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Dr. Shelton and all the professionals at the University of Guam. That was an excellent conference that you put on. I know that the speaker and I were able to attend. I think Senator Nelson was on a panel, and some of the other members of the legislature had the opportunity to be present there at the Hyatt. And I just wanted to invite everyone else. We are going to have an informational hearing. My committee will have an information briefing based on some of the findings from the sustainability conference, and we want to invite all of you. We want to invite the mayors and everybody in our community to tune in to that or even come and participate. That'll be Wednesday, May 10th. It begins at 9 a.m. right here in this room. And again, it's an informational briefing regarding the Center of Island Sustainability, the 2017 Island Sustainability Conference. So
thank you very much for holding that, Senator. I'm looking forward to the hearing.
Me as well. And I think that goes along with what the Speaker and Senator Ada will be doing tomorrow as well. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much for your testimony today. The committee will continue to receive testimony for an additional 10 days. And that can be sent to one Speaker Benjamin J.F. Cruz at the Guam Congress Building, 163 Chalon Central Papa, or emailed to senator@senator.bjcruz.com. With that, we'll stand adjourned for the day. Thank you very much.